The UFC is back in the Meta Apex this weekend with a classic matchup between a rising contender and an OG fighter. Josh Emmett versus Kevin Vallejos is a classic matchup in the Apex for UFC Vegas 114, and we're going to make some money on it, boys. This is my underdog bets and predictions for UFC Vegas 114. If you guys have been tailing these videos, following this whole cycle that we've been doing with these videos, you guys have been up. All right, if you guys have been betting my underdogs, you have seen how profitable we have been over the past year that I've been doing this segment, and we're going to continue the roll. We're going to keep it moving. We're not going to stop anytime soon. First, we're going to get into a recap of UFC 326, and then we're going to get into my favorite underdog bets for UFC Vegas 114. Let's go ahead and just get into the recap of UFC 326 because we did very good. We did very, very good, going 2 of 3 underdogs. It was a solid cash, boys. If you guys have been tailing, you guys have known that this channel and this video specifically has been profitable throughout the past year that I've been doing these videos. So keep it rolling with this one. But we're going to get started with the recap of last week in Garbrandt, plus 125. My least confident underdog. I'm going to be honest. My least confident underdog. I was live at UFC 326. What happened to Cody Garbrandt was absolutely disgusting. The amount of cup shots and groin shots and kicks to the balls that Zhao Long was throwing at Cody Garbrandt was ridiculous. He got 2 points removed and lost that fight, and I still thought he won every single round, but Cody Garbrandt got it done. Plus 125, cash it. We don't care about the cup shots. We don't care about all the illegal moves and all the points getting deducted. Even though Cody Garbrandt, I thought, lost the fight, he got it done. Plus 125, cash it. We don't care. We'll take it. Then we had Rob Font. Obviously, with what happened with Rob Font, I told you guys it was either going to be he gets grappled for 15 minutes straight, the most boring snooze fest of all time. Cut Raul Rosas Jr. I don't give a fuck. He's terrible. Or Rob Font's going to pick him apart. Obviously, you guys know what happened. Rob Font got grappled for literally 15. It was the most boring thing I've ever seen. It was genuinely the most boring thing I've ever seen, but we don't care about that because Rob Font, I wasn't very confident, didn't end up laying a lot on Rob Font, so we were very profitable because then we had the boy Drew Dober at plus 105. Cash that ticket with ease on fight day. He was minus 140. I got him at plus 105. My most confident underdog of the week, cashed with absolute ease. I told the guy on the left that I was sitting next to in the arena, I told you, just wait for the overhand. Just wait for the overhand. And I have a clip of me saying, oh, there it is. There it is, because I knew it was coming, all right? Memes in the UFC are there for a reason, and you don't stray away from memes, okay? We bet on memes, and Drew Dober has a little bit of motivation, all right, against certain fighters, and the memes carry on. The memes carry on. You live with the memes, and plus 105 was an absolute steal on Drew Dober. We take that all week. We take that all weekend, and we cashed a plus 105 ticket. So let me know in the comments down below if you guys tailed my UFC 326 underdogs. But we're going to get into this card, man, because I think there's a lot of value on some fighters on this card. And I've got 3 underdogs that I'm quite confident in. 3 guys that I see that have value that you could play. I don't play every single one of my underdogs that I do give this show. If you guys want every single one of my bets that I do give and every single one of my bets that I do end up placing, go check out my Winnable in the description down below. You can use code YAP for a free week, for the free weekend. You can get all my bets for this weekend for completely free, all right? And you can tail those bets. But we're going to get straight into it with my least confident underdog, Steven Asplund, plus 190, all right? The second I saw this line, I was like, bro, you might have to sprinkle on this. You might just have to, because Steven Asplund's story is absolutely incredible. He used to be 520 pounds. He now weighs 260 pounds. He's completely cut more than 200 pounds, almost 300 pounds in weight alone, all right? He's at heavyweight. He's fighting a guy that's been broken time and time again in Vitor Petrino, a guy who's moved up to heavyweight because he was struggling and getting broken down at light heavyweight. And he's a guy who's way more athletic than Asplund, way more physically imposing than Asplund, but he's breakable. He can be broken. We've seen him get broken multiple times, multiple fights. We've seen Vitor Petrino get broken. And if you didn't watch Steven Asplund's debut, go watch his fight because he is literally the heavyweight Max Holloway. The output was incredible in his debut. He threw 170 significant strikes in a round and a half at heavyweight. Who does that? Nobody does that. All right, so plus 190, Steven Asplund has to be a guy that you're going to look at when you're thinking about bets for this card. He's my least confident underdog because I do believe Vitor Petrino is dangerous. I think he's more athletic. I think he's more gifted. But is he the bigger dog? No, he's not. Steven Asplen is, and that's what this show is all about. We give the best underdogs and the best dogs, the guys who are going to go out there and fight for your money as a big underdog. And plus 190 on Steven Asplen is a line that you have to look at when you're thinking about underdogs on this card, because he is going to go out there, he's going to pop the jab, he's going to be sticking and moving at heavyweight, he's fast, he's quick for 260 pounds, and he used to be 520 pounds. He's incredible at the weight that he's at. He's very fast. He's got a lot of heart. He will not quit on himself. And if this gets into the later rounds, expect Steven Asplen to take over. I think if Vitor Petrino doesn't finish Asplen in round 1 or early round 2, I think we're going to see Steven Asplen take over, just out-volume Vitor Petrino, and either get a late TKO or a dominant decision. I think Steven Asplen plus 190 is one of the best underdogs on this card, but he's my least confident. We're going to move on to my next most confident underdog. I've got Eric Anders at plus 100. This is a fight that I understand if you don't want to bet on, because this is a very tricky matchup. Eric Anders versus Brad Tavares is literally a vet versus vet matchup. An OG versus an OG. How have they not fought before? No idea. But plus 100 on Eric Anders is a line you have to look at because of the fact that this is literally an even fight. I think Eric Anders has looked better than Brad Tavares has in their last few fights. They fought almost the same competition, but Brad Tavares has looked like a shell of himself. He's got no finishing ability. He just jabs, sticks, moves, defends takedowns. That's basically it. Eric Anders is going to march forward. He's going to throw volume in your face. He's going to be there for 15 minutes. And I think he's going to fight in this one very hard. So I'm going to go with Eric Anders at plus 100 as my next most confident underdog. I think he's very solid in this spot, and I think he can get it done over 3 rounds over a guy in Brad Tavares who's literally looked like a shell of himself. In these fights, in these betting breakdowns, these underdog breakdowns, you have to look at their opponent. And sometimes you may not be betting on the fighter, but you might be betting against the opponent. And I think in this spot, I'm betting against Brad Tavares. So give me Eric Anders at plus 100 as my next most confident underdog. I think he's solid in this spot. I think he can push forward. He can put the pressure on Brad Tavares, tire him out, gas him out. We've seen Brad Tavares in these past few fights just look horrible. You know, he beat Gerald Mearshart. He just lost to that Polish guy where he just got beat up. He just got the piss beat out of him and just got comboed up against the fence and TKO'd. Eric Anders, on the other hand, fought a way better competition in Christian Leroy Duncan, who's a guy who's very, very dangerous. And Brad Tavares isn't dangerous. He can't finish Eric Anders. I think Eric Anders has the finishing upside. I think he's got the pressure. I think he's got the volume to beat a guy in Brad Tavares who just hasn't looked good at all. So Eric Anders at plus 100 is going to be my next most confident underdog. We're going to move on to my most confident underdog, though. This guy is a guy that I have given on this show before. This is a guy who is part of the channel, all right? This is a guy I love. But I'm not only betting on him, I'm betting against his opponent. Bruno Silva plus 145 is my most confident underdog at UFC Vegas 114 for a few reasons. He's going up against Charles Johnson. All right, classic Charles Johnson, the prospect killer, the man himself, a guy who a lot of people are high on. And I understand that a lot of people are high on him in this fight because he's got the reach advantage, he's got the height advantage. I think he has the durability advantage, and I think he has the cardio advantage. All right, I'm telling you guys all those things immediately. But again, like I say in a lot of these breakdowns, the memes write themselves. All right. Charles Johnson is a guy who kills prospects. He destroys prospects. He knocked out Loner Kavanaugh. He knocked out the champion. He knocked out Joshua Van. All right, brutally knocked out Joshua Van and brutally knocked out Loner Kavanaugh. And you see where they're at now. They're both in the top 5 or the champion of the flyweight division. Bruno Silva is a guy who is dangerous, very explosive, big power in the hands. He's got really solid grappling. I watched him live at UFC Vancouver, and he looked amazing. I picked him as my most confident underdog there, and he cashed that ticket plus, I think he was plus 185. Plus 180, plus 185, and we cashed solid on that fight. He submitted Hyung Sung Park, showed that he still has it. Bruno Silva has been a guy who has beat the bottom barrel of the flyweight division with ease, and has dominated and finished most of them. The guys he's lost to are Manel Kape and Joshua Van. And if you want to go ahead and do MMA math, oh, Bruno lost to Joshua Van, but Charles Johnson knocked out Joshua Van. Oh, okay, Charles Johnson's going to beat Bruno Silva. You can go ahead and try to do that. But Charles Johnson beats guys that are unexperienced, who have lack of cardio, who aren't defensively sound, who can get caught. Bruno Silva is not that guy. Bruno Silva is defensively sound. He is dangerous. He's going to be throwing big bombs back at Charles Johnson. And we just saw Charles Johnson a month and a half ago get knocked out versus an old vet, an absolutely old vet. And I picked him in that spot. I picked against Charles Johnson in that spot. One of my most favorite underdogs, my most confident underdog for that week was the guy who was facing Charles Johnson. I can't think of his name right now. I cannot think of his name. What's his name, man? Oh my God. What's his name? I'm trying to think of his name right now, but you guys know who I'm talking about. He was my most confident underdog in that spot against Charles Johnson, and I don't hate Charles Johnson, but I do bet against Charles Johnson. It may be a little bit biased, but the guy does very well against prospects, but when he fights vets, when he fights experienced fighters, he struggles. That's it, plain and simple. And Bruno Silva is experienced, he's dangerous, he can finish Charles Johnson, and Charles Johnson just got finished. We've never seen Charles Johnson get finished. He just got TKO'd in his last fight brutally, really bad, only a month and a half ago. Bruno Silva has been booked for this fight card for a while. He's been training for a while for this fight card. He was supposed to fight Loner Kavanaugh. Now he's fighting Charles Johnson, and Johnson's making a quick turnaround. I really don't like that for Charles Johnson in this spot. So plus 145 on Bruno Silva. He's my most confident underdog of the week. He's a guy I'm going to be betting on. I will tell you that. If you, like I said, if you want all my bets, if you want to know how much I place on Bruno Silva or place on prop bets for this fight, go check out my winnable down below. Use code YAP for a free weekend off. But Bruno Silva plus 145, a solid guy in this spot, a guy who's going to fight for your money, a guy who can finish his opponents, finish a guy in Charles Johnson, who even though he has the reach advantage, has all the physical advantages. Bruno Silva is going to get in the pocket. He's going to bomb away. He's going to be throwing that nice uppercut. He's got beautiful check uppercut. I can see him catching Charles Johnson with that. I can see him catching him with the overhand right, just wobbling him, putting him down, and finishing him. So I'm going to go with Bruno Silva at plus 145 as my favorite, my most confident underdog for UFC Vegas 114. That's the entire breakdown, boys. If you guys did enjoy the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, drop it down in the comments who your favorite underdog for UFC Vegas 114 is, and I will catch you guys in the next video. See you.